Welcome to Technology Comparison's Crashcasts. I'm your host, Sheila, and today we're diving into an exciting topic, Redis versus Memcached. We'll be exploring these popular caching systems, their differences, and when to use each one. Joining me today is our expert, Victor. Welcome, Victor.
Thanks, Sheila. I'm excited to discuss these two powerful caching solutions with you and our listeners.
Great. Let's break down what we'll cover today. We'll start with a brief history of Redis and Memcached, then dive into their key features and differences. We'll discuss use cases, performance considerations, and common pitfalls to avoid. Finally, we'll wrap up with best practices and real-world implementations. But before we begin, let's start with a quiz question for our listeners. Victor, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's hear it.
All right, listeners, here's your question. Which of these two caching systems supports data structures like lists and sets? Keep that in mind as we go through the episode. Victor, any thoughts on this question without giving away the answer?
That's an interesting question, Sheila. It definitely touches on one of the key differences between these two systems. I think listeners who have worked with either Redis or Memcached might have an immediate reaction, but for those who haven't, it's a great point to consider as we discuss the features of each system.
Excellent. Let's start with the basics. Can you give us a brief history of Redis and Memcached? Why were they created, and how have they evolved?
Certainly. Memcached was created first, back in 2003, by Brad Fitzpatrick for LiveJournal. It was designed as a simple, high-performance distributed memory caching system to speed up dynamic web applications by alleviating database load. Redis, on the other hand, was created in 2009 by Salvatore Sanfilippo. While it started as a database for a real-time weblog analyzer, it quickly evolved into a more versatile in-memory data structure store.
Interesting. So they both serve as caching systems, but it sounds like Redis has some additional capabilities. Before we dive deeper, could you explain what we mean by caching and in-memory data stores for our listeners who might be new to these terms?
Of course, caching is the process of storing frequently accessed data in a location that allows faster retrieval. An in-memory data store keeps this data in the computer's RAM rather than on disk, which makes access extremely fast. Both Redis and Memcached are in-memory caching systems that help reduce the load on databases and speed up applications.
That's helpful, thank you. Now, I understand there are some key differences between Redis and Memcached. Could you elaborate on those?
Absolutely. The first major difference is in the data structures they support. Memcached is primarily designed for simple key-value storage of strings and objects. Redis, on the other hand, supports a wider range of data structures including strings, hashes, lists, sets, sorted sets, and more. This makes Redis more versatile for complex data operations.
That's fascinating. So, Redis seems more flexible in terms of data handling. Are there other significant differences?
Yes, there are several other important distinctions. Redis offers data persistence, meaning it can save data to disk, while Memcached is purely in-memory. Redis also supports replication, allowing you to create multiple copies of a Redis instance for better reliability and read scaling. Memcached doesn't have built-in support for this. In terms of scalability, both can be scaled horizontally, but they handle it differently. Memcached uses a distributed architecture where each node is independent, while Redis offers cluster mode for automatic sharding across multiple nodes. Lastly, their memory management differs. Memcached uses a slab allocation system, a way of pre-allocating memory chunks to reduce fragmentation, and will automatically evict old data when it runs out of memory. Redis provides more control over memory usage and eviction policies.
Wow, those are significant differences. It seems like Redis offers more features, but I assume there must be trade-offs. Could you talk about when you might choose one over the other?
You're right, Sheila. While Redis offers more features, Memcached can be simpler to set up and use, and in some cases it can be more memory efficient for simple caching needs. You might choose Memcached when you need a straightforward, distributed caching layer for storing strings or objects, especially if you're dealing with very large items. It's great for caching database queries, API responses, or session data in web applications. Redis is a better choice when you need more complex data structures, if you require persistence or replication, or if you need to perform operations on the data within the cache itself. It's commonly used for real-time analytics, leaderboards, geospatial data, and as a message broker.
That makes sense. How do they compare in terms of performance?
Performance can vary depending on the specific use case and configuration, but generally, both Redis and Memcached are extremely fast. Memcached might have a slight edge in raw speed for simple key-value operations, especially with very large items. However, Redis often performs better for complex operations thanks to its data structures and ability to perform operations server-side. It's worth noting that Redis is single-threaded, while Memcached is multi-threaded. This means Memcached might perform better under certain high concurrency scenarios, but Redis's clever design often makes this difference negligible in practice.
Interesting. Are there any common misconceptions or pitfalls people should be aware of when working with these systems?
Absolutely. One common misconception is that Redis is always the better choice because it has more features. In reality, Memcached simplicity can be an advantage in certain scenarios. A common pitfall with both systems is underestimating the importance of proper cache invalidation. If you don't have a good strategy for updating or removing stale data, you can end up serving outdated information to your users. With Redis, people sometimes try to use it as a primary database rather than a cache, which can lead to issues with data consistency and durability. Remember, even though Redis offers persistence, it's primarily designed as an in-memory store. For Memcached, a common mistake is not properly considering key distribution in a multi-node setup, which can lead to uneven load distribution.
Those are great points to keep in mind. Could you share some best practices for using these systems effectively?
Certainly. For both systems, it's crucial to implement proper error handling and fallback mechanisms. Your application should be able to function, albeit slower, if the cache is unavailable. For Redis, 1. Use appropriate data structures for your use case to maximize efficiency. 2. Implement a sensible key naming convention to avoid conflicts and improve organization. 3. Be cautious with blocking operations in a production environment. 4. Use Redis's built-in monitoring and profiling tools to optimize performance. For Memcached, 1. Set appropriate expiration times on your cache items to manage memory usage. 2. Use consistent hashing for key distribution in a multi-node setup. 3. Monitor and tune memory usage to avoid excessive evictions. 4. Consider using a Memcached client that supports failover for better reliability. For both, it's important to carefully consider your caching strategy. This includes deciding what to cache, for how long, and how to handle cache misses and updates.
That's really helpful, Victor. Can you give us some examples of real-world implementations of these systems?
Of course, Redis is used by many large companies for various purposes. Twitter uses Redis for its timeline service, storing the most recent tweets for quick retrieval. Pinterest uses Redis for their follower graph, making it quick to fetch a user's followers or followees. GitHub uses Redis as a queue for background jobs. Memcached is also widely used. Facebook has been a long-time user of Memcached, heavily customizing it for their needs. They use it to store social networking data and to cache database queries and API results. Wikipedia uses Memcached to reduce database load and speed up page rendering.
Fascinating. Now I'm curious how these systems compare to other similar technologies in the market.
Great question. There are several other in-memory data stores and caching systems out there. Apache Ignite and Hazelcast are two that come to mind. These systems often provide more advanced features like distributed computing capabilities and integration with other big data technologies. However, they can be more complex to set up and manage compared to Redis or Memcached. Another technology worth mentioning is Acache, which is popular in Java environments. It can work as an in-memory cache, but also supports disk storage, making it a good choice for applications that need to cache large amounts of data. Compared to these, Redis and Memcached are often simpler to use and have excellent performance for their intended use cases. They also have the advantage of being widely adopted, which means good community support and integration with many languages and frameworks.
That's a great overview, Victor. Before we wrap up, do you have any fun facts or memory tricks to help our listeners remember the key points about Redis and Memcached?
Sure, here's a fun fact. The name Redis actually stands for Remote Dictionary Server. And for a memory trick, you can remember Redis more to recall that Redis offers more features than Memcached.
I love that. Okay, let's summarize the key points we've discussed today. 1. Redis and Memcached are both in-memory caching systems, but Redis supports more complex data structures. 2. Redis offers persistence and replication, while Memcached is purely in-memory. 3. Memcached can be simpler and more memory efficient for basic caching needs. 4. Redis is more versatile and better suited for complex operations and data structures. 5. Both systems are extremely fast, with performance depending on specific use cases. 6. Proper cache invalidation and error handling are crucial for both systems. 7. Redis is used by companies like Twitter and Pinterest, while Facebook is a major Memcached user. Now it's time to reveal the answer to our quiz question. Victor, which of these two caching systems supports data structures like lists and sets?
The answer is Redis. As we discussed, Redis supports a variety of data structures including lists and sets, while Memcached is primarily for simple key-value storage.
Excellent. Thank you, Victor, for sharing your expertise with us today. If we had more time, we could have delved deeper into topics like Redis modules, Memcached's binary protocol, or advanced clustering configurations, maybe in a future episode. Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Technology Comparisons Crashcasts and leave us a rating. Your support helps us continue to produce informative content. Until next time, keep catching and stay curious.